Most people believe they fail because they lack discipline. Most people assume they are weak, unfocused, or flawed. However, this entire way of thinking is profoundly misguided. And here is the truth the world rarely tells you. This video will not judge you. This is not another ordinary motivational message. This is a confrontation with the architecture of your mind and the silent forces shaping the person you have become. Let me begin with something you have never been told clearly. You are not broken. You are simply running an ancient brain inside a modern world. On one side, there is you, the conscious self who dreams, who plans, who hopes. On the other, there is your brain, an organ that evolved for a life you no longer live. Your brain wants simplicity. Your brain wants consistency. Your brain wants immediate rewards, predictable patterns, and energy conservation. But the world requires long-term focus, repeated effort, delayed gratification, and constant adaptation. This is the real conflict. This is the battlefield you walk into every single morning. So let me ask you a question that may feel unsettling. What if the problem isn't you, but the environment you've been forced to navigate? You've been told that you lack willpower. You've been told that if you truly wanted change, you would have made it already. You've been told that discipline is a matter of character. And here's the truth. Discipline does not come from moral superiority. Discipline does not come from stronger people. Discipline comes from one thing: predictable cues in a stable environment. And if you have never been taught this, how could you blame yourself for failing? In the next part, I want you to breathe deeply and allow this thought to settle into your nervous system. You are not flawed. You were misinformed. This script will not praise your effort. It will not flatter your identity. It will not repeat empty motivational cliches. Instead, it will strip away the illusions surrounding your habits, your choices, and your sense of self. Because before you can transform your life, you must first understand this. Your habits are not just actions. They are fragments of your identity, repeated until they feel inevitable. And today, you will begin to see them clearly. Here is the real problem. You think you are making your decisions. You believe you are choosing what to do next. But the deeper truth is this: your habits decide long before your consciousness catches up. Your brain evolved to automate everything it possibly could, not because it wants efficiency, but because automation ensured survival. First, it scanned for cues. Then, it repeated behaviors that once worked. Now, thousands of years later, it still follows the same formula. Let me walk you through something gently. Your brain doesn't care about your future goals. Your brain cares about conserving energy right now. This is not a character flaw. This is biology. And here's the truth you must hear without defensiveness. Your brain is not designed for modern productivity. Your brain is designed for ancient survival. On one side, the brain wants instinctive, immediate, predictable actions. On the other side, your life requires strategic, long-term, identity-shaping behaviors. This is the tension within you, the invisible tug-of-war creating guilt, shame, and self-doubt. But let me reassure you, this video will not shame you for being human. Instead, I want to show you something essential. Your brain gravitates toward whatever reduces friction. It is drawn to the path of least resistance. It rewards familiarity, not intention. Practical example: you don't procrastinate because you are irresponsible. You procrastinate because your brain interprets unfamiliar tasks as threats and familiar distractions as safety. Emotional validation. Of course you feel overwhelmed. Of course you struggle to begin. You were fighting a system designed to prevent unnecessary energy expenditure. Implication for your life? If you want to transform your habits, you cannot start by demanding more willpower. You must start by removing friction, altering cues, and shaping an environment your ancient brain can trust. Your transformation will not begin with a decision. It will begin with recognition. Your brain is powerful, but it is not your identity. You are not your impulses. You are aware of observing them. And once you understand this, you reclaim authority over the patterns controlling your life. In the next chapter, we will dismantle one of the most dangerous myths modern cultures still believe. Here is the illusion that has misled millions. Discipline is a personality trait. No, this is false. This is a myth that has harmed people more than it has helped them. Discipline is not something you are born with. Discipline is not a moral virtue. Discipline is not the secret ingredient of success. And here's the truth. Discipline is simply the result of structured cues and stable routines. Let me say that again, because repetition creates clarity. Discipline does not come from character. Discipline comes from conditions. If the cue is predictable, the behavior becomes automatic. If the behavior is automatic, we call it discipline. You admire people who wake up early, study, train, build, and execute consistently. But what you do not see is the invisible structure surrounding them. The environment engineered to eliminate choice. Because choice requires effort and the brain avoids effort. Let me offer you emotional validation. Of course, you struggle to create consistency when your environment changes every hour. Of course, you find it difficult to stay focused when your phone is designed to hijack your attention. Of course, you feel inferior when you compare yourself to people who have spent years building systems you've never been taught. You're not weak. You were simply never given the architecture required for discipline to exist. A practical example: if your workspace is cluttered, your brain receives dozens of unconscious cues, each one introducing friction. But if your workspace is clean, your brain receives one cue: start. Implication for your life: your lack of discipline is not a verdict on your identity. It is a reflection of the cues around you. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. When you change the cues, the person changes. When you change the environment, the behavior changes. When you change the system, the outcomes follow automatically. In the next part, we will look at the real enemy of self-mastery, the world you live in and the brain you inherited. Your brain evolved in an environment that no longer exists. This single fact explains much of your internal conflict. First, understand this. Your brain wants immediate feedback, but the world offers delayed rewards. This mismatch creates frustration, self-blame, and cycles of avoidance. Your ancient brain was shaped by scarcity, but the modern world overwhelms you with abundance. Your ancient brain relied on predictable routines, but the modern world assaults you with constant novelty. Your ancient brain required moments of silence, but the modern world drowns you in stimulation. This contrast is not philosophical, it is practical, and it affects every habit you struggle with. A practical example: when you attempt to read, your brain interprets it as low-reward behavior compared to the instant feedback of your phone. So it drifts. Emotional validation: you are not easily distracted. You are neurologically outmatched. The modern world is engineered to hijack the very systems your ancient brain depends on for survival. And here's the truth. Your brain wants efficiency, but the world requires adaptability. This conflict creates exhaustion, not because you are fragile, but because your environment demands more than your default settings can supply. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How can you expect yourself to behave like a focused modern human when your biology is still calibrated for the rhythms of ancient landscapes? And here's another question. What if your struggles are not personal failures, but mismatches between your brain's expectations and your environment's reality? Implication for your life: the world you live in will not simplify itself. The responsibility falls to you, not to work harder, but to restructure your surroundings so your brain can work with you instead of against you. You do not rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your cues. And until you accept the reality of this ancient modern conflict, you will continue to blame yourself for patterns that are not your fault. In the next chapter, we will take the first step toward liberation, understanding the habit loop that determines everything you repeatedly do. Let me make a strong declaration. You do nothing without a cue. Nothing. Every action you repeat, good or bad, begins with a trigger. First a cue, then a routine, finally a reward. This is the loop, the invisible cycle guiding your days and sculpting your identity. And here's the truth. Your habits are not random. They are predictable responses to predictable signals. Let me give you a simple, relatable example. You don't check your phone because you choose to. You check your phone because a cue, boredom, uncertainty, or a notification activates a loop you've reinforced thousands of times. Emotional validation. How could you resist something you've taught your brain to pursue repeatedly? How could you overturn a pattern your neural circuits believe is essential? You cannot fight a habit. You can only interrupt or replace it. And here's something few people understand. You do not break habits through force. You break them through awareness. Awareness of the cue, awareness of the craving, awareness of the routine, awareness of the reward. When you can see the loop, you can intervene. When you cannot see it, you remain confined within it. Implication for your life. Your struggle is not a lack of effort. Your struggle is the invisibility of the patterns shaping you. You are asking yourself to be disciplined in a system designed for repetition. You are demanding transformation without adjusting the underlying loop. But once you identify the cue, you can restructure the routine. And once you restructure the routine, you can reclaim control. In the next part, we will move beyond understanding and into practice. The laws that govern habit formation and the identity you will become through them. Let me speak plainly. You cannot transform without structure. You cannot evolve without rules. Every habit you want to build and every habit you want to eliminate follows the same universal laws. These principles are not mystical. They are not motivationals. They are psychological truths about how your brain responds to cues and rewards. Law number 1. Make it obvious. First, the brain needs clarity. If a cue is invisible, the habit cannot activate. Practical example. If you want to read, put the book where your eyes naturally fall. Emotional validation. Of course, you forget your goals. They are hidden in drawers and apps you never open. Law number 2. Make it attractive. The brain pursues pleasure. If a behavior feels dull or painful, you will avoid it. Practical example. Pair a difficult task with something enjoyable. Read with tea, study with calming music. Law number 3. Make it easy. Your brain seeks efficiency. Every extra step adds friction, and your ancient wiring refuses unnecessary effort. Practical example. If you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before. Emotional validation. You are not lazy. You are responding to friction your brain interprets as threat. Law number 4. Make it satisfying. Repetition requires reward. The brain must feel immediate progress. Practical example. Track your progress on a calendar. Your brain loves visible proof. Implication for your life. When these laws align, habits crystallize. When they clash, habits collapse. And here's the truth. Your environment either works for you or it works against you. There is no neutral ground. The world is shaping you every moment through cues, conveniences, obstacles, and expectations. Your task is not to resist the world, but to construct a world that makes the person you want to become inevitable. In the next chapter, we will move to vision to execution, the system that makes transformation sustainable. Here is the most powerful realization you will hear. Motivation is overrated, but environment is more important. Motivation fluctuates, but the environment dictates. Motivation is emotional. The environment is structural. Motivation inspires you to start, but the environment ensures you to continue. And here's the truth. You do not need stronger willpower. You need a stronger system. A system is not a plan. A system is not a vision board. It is not a burst of enthusiasm. It is the architecture of your daily life, the predictable sequence of cues and actions that make your identity effortless. Practical example. If you want to eat healthier, don't rely on motivation. Redesign your kitchen. Make the cues impossible to ignore. Emotional validation. Of course, you relapse when your environment contradicts your intentions. No one thrives in a system designed for failure. Implication for your life. Your life is not determined by the goals you set, but by the systems you follow consistently. And once you understand this, your transformation becomes durable rather than temporary. In the next chapter, we slow down and examine the smallest unit of identity change, the atom of behavior. Let me present a simple but profound truth. Small habits shape large identities. Your life does not change through massive, irregular effort. Your life changes through small, consistent acts that become so familiar they fuse into who you are. This is where habit stacking becomes powerful. First, identify an existing habit. Then, attach a new behavior directly after it. Now, you have a chain reaction. Existing habit into a new habit. Cue into a routine certainty into a transformation practical example. After you make your morning coffee, read one page. After you brush your teeth, stretch for 30 seconds. These small add-ons seem insignificant, but do not underestimate them. And here's the truth. Your brain loves predictability. Habit stacking gives it structure. Emotional validation. You have not failed because you lacked ambition. You failed because you attempted to leap instead of linking. Implication for your life. Stack enough small habits and identity shifts. Identity shifts. And action becomes effortless. In the next chapter, we explore the deepest layer of change, the narratives you have internalized. Every habit begins with a story. Every story shapes an identity, and every identity shapes a destiny. Let me make a strong declaration. You are living inside a narrative you did not consciously choose. You have internalized beliefs about your capabilities, limitations, and patterns. Beliefs shaped by childhood, culture, repetition, and previous failures. On one side, there is your conscious desire for growth. On the other, there is the unconscious narrative whispering, "This is who you are. You cannot change." And here's the truth. Your habits do not just reflect your identity. They reinforce it. If you believe you are inconsistent, you will behave inconsistently. If you believe you lack discipline, you will avoid disciplined actions. If you believe you are destined to remain the same, you will repeat the same loops. Emotional validation. These narratives were not chosen by you. They were inherited. They were installed. They were repeated until they became familiar. But familiar does not mean true. Practical example. If you tell yourself, "I'm not a morning person," your brain builds habits that support that identity. Late nights, disrupted cues, constant fatigue. Implication for your life. To change your habits, you must challenge the story beneath them. And here's the truth. Identity is malleable. The narrative is editable. Self is expandable. In the next chapter, we bring everything together and create the blueprint for your transformation. Let me remind you of the emotional journey. Relief? It is not your fault. Curiosity? If willpower isn't the answer, what is? Empowerment. You can change your environment. Clarity. The laws, the cues, the systems. Identity. Becoming the kind of person. Now you stand at the threshold of something essential. You can redesign the architecture of your life. First, make your goals invisible. Replace them with systems. Second, make your identity flexible. Replace labels with actions. Third, make your environment intentional. Replace friction with clarity. Practical example. If you want to become a learner, redesign a corner of your home as a learning space. Make the cue unmistakable. Make the routine easy. Make the reward satisfying. Emotional validation. You are not behind. You are not slow. You are not destined to remain static. You are simply beginning again with a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Implication for your life? Transformation is not an event. It is a system, a structure, a sequence. In the final chapter, we will confront the most powerful truth of all, the realization that your future self is already waiting. Let me end with a declaration that may change your life. You are not trying to become someone new. You are uncovering someone you were always capable of being. Your habits do not define you. They reveal the systems you have been living inside. Your failures do not define you. They reveal the cues that triggered old loops. Your successes do not define you. They reveal the moments when your environment aligned with your intention. And here's the truth. Identity is not permanent. Identity is a direction. Every action you take is a vote. Every repetition is a reinforcement. Every cue is a chance to choose again. Let me ask you one final question. What if the future version of you is not a fantasy, but an inevitability once the system is in place? You are not the person who struggles. You are the person who is learning. You are not the person who repeats old patterns. You are the person who is rebuilding the architecture those patterns lived inside. Practical example. The person who reads one page today is more transformed than the person who waits for motivation tomorrow. Small actions compound, small habits crystallize, small identities evolve. Emotional validation, you do not need to become extraordinary. You need to become consistent. And consistency is not a personality trait. It is the natural outcome of a well-designed environment. Implication for your life? Your future will not be shaped by sudden bursts of effort, but by the systems you put into place today. Because once the system is aligned, once the cues are clear, once the friction is removed, once identity begins to shift, the new self emerges. Quietly, steadily, inevitably. And when that moment comes, you will not need motivation. You will not need force. You will not need willpower. You will simply be living as the person you once hoped to become. This is the truth you came here to hear. Your habits are not destiny. Your identity is not fixed. Your future is not written. But starting today, you are writing it. One cue, one action, one repetition at a time.